So here's a little video short. I couldn't pass it up because of the birds that we saw today. We're out of my yard. This is only a little 2-minute job, but we couldn't resist. It's a beautiful sunny day here. It is May 3rd, and you can probably hear the great crested flycatcher calling out there and the buzz of the carpenter bees behind me. And I've had a lot of birds come through my yard. The spring migration is starting to start up this time of year, so we figured we'd share with you just a few minutes of what we've seen and a couple comments. All right, so being that we're quarantined and people are restricted to home, there's worse places to be than sitting on my front deck. It's a happy hour. It's a beautiful day. I've got a glass of wine, and it's not even Wine Down Wednesday. I've got my journal out, and I made some notes today of what we've seen here in the last day or two. Here comes a feed kennel. That's not a bird. My family, we have about exactly 1 acre out here, and someday I'm going to write a little ditty book about what I've seen on 1 acre of land. Not just birds, but other things that grow, or tree frogs, and some stories of things that have happened on this property. But in the meantime, this is my journal. I make notes, like we talked about. We're not supposed to pass at 75 miles an hour on this road. Like Richard Prenneke made his notes, you know, nobody's memory is serving anybody too well, so it's always good to take notes so you can remember. And there's something that happens that I try to do every year with this book, which is keep track of what I saw, not only since we've lived here, but every year. The first is something, the last is something, and how many I saw that year. You know, you can have a little competition with my brother, I could have a little competition with my parents, we compare notes. They live north of me, Connecticut and northern Pennsylvania, and what I see might be something that might get to them in a day 2 or 3, so I try to let them know. So in a minute I'm going to tell you what I've seen, but in a minute I'm just going to mention a couple of quick books that have something to do with this, which is, if you've ever seen the movie The Big Year, and you should, it's about a book that was written, which I have a copy, don't know where it got to, probably one of them deals where you lend it out to somebody and forget where it got to. But the movie stars, look at this hit list: Steve Martin, Jack Black, and Owen Wilson. And it's all about a book about 3 guys that competed to see how many birds they could see in 1 year, and how they traveled around America to see them. And it takes money to do that. They were all wealthy enough, except for one. I think the one guy that Owen Wilson maybe played was a Mennonite. A good book to have this time of year for the spring migration is Peterson. We talked about Peterson before with the field guides. This is strictly on warblers. So about 30 different species come through here. They all have beautiful colors: yellow, blue, green, black. But there's something funny about warblers, which is they're very hard to identify and see because they move around so much. It's called warbler neck, where you've got your binoculars, and by the time you figure, he's over there, and after doing that for an hour, you've got a stiff neck, and they call that warbler neck. What I've seen in the last 48 hours, we're going to interject pictures from the internet. I don't have a great camera, so we're not going to go that route. But in the last, I don't know, day and a half, we've had a Baltimore Oriole. You can hear the great crested flycatcher calling again. A male and female orchard oriole, and they come by this time every year about now. Like to hang out in the very tops of trees like the warblers do. An American goldfinch, which is known by some as America's canary. Our only true canary is extinct, I believe, and at least for over 100 years. We did have a canary in this country. I can't recall the name, and I think it was over 100 years ago that it disappeared from us. We had a beautiful singing house finch, about as many as I can count myrtle warblers, which are also known as the yellow rump, which are our most northern warbler, and sometimes I don't even know if they ever really truly leave, but in the winter they look more like a sparrow. But this time of year they're black, yellow, and white, and they are very beautiful, and hence the name yellow rump comes from a little yellow spot that's above their tail. And then I've mentioned a couple times the great crested flycatcher. So I'm going to shut up, and Parker's going to edit it, and she's going to mix in some pictures of what we saw. Hope you're having a great spring despite all this going on.